Hi, Zach.
Hey, Howie, how are you tonight?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Good. Did you miss the secondary email that followed the first one?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
There was two emails. There was the first one, which had the agenda,
Right,
which contained the links to YouTube and Facebook.
right.
And then there was a second subsequent email, I think the day or two later with the Zoom information.
Yeah, that one I didn't see.
Huh.
Are you using
Okay.
a mailing list for that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
You know what? But Howie, I had to trim that one down to keep it to Cana members, Cana delegates. Let me double check it to make sure.
Okay.
Because you got two going on. You got a DS01 and then you got the H Stoller.
Right. But I checked both of them. But the Google email is my primary email. That DS01, I was going to split them up and use like one for personal stuff, one for the other. But then I got confused between which one was, so I just use them interchangeably.
Let me just double check to make sure.
Zach, you want to make me a co-host so I can get people and then I can do attendance as people come in? You know how to do that?
How do I do that?
So down at the bottom, that little thing down at the bottom, it should give you the list of participants. Click on that. And then you'll see my name and click on more next to it. And it should say make co-host.
Oh, okay. All right. It says make host. Is that okay?
That means I'm taking over from you. But if you make me a co-host, that means we both are hosts.
That's not an option with my Zoom.
Mm.
I don't think I have a co-host option.
Then it's totally up to you what you wish to do.
Do you want to let people in?
I can let people in and take attendance at the same
Let me
time.
turn it over to you. Let me turn it over to you. Mind? You've done Zooms?
Yep. That's
Okay.
what I do.
Lisa, you are the Cadillac of Cana secretaries.
You got me for the low price of free.99. All right, so it has me as the host. Okay.
Are you in? You good?
Yep, I'm good. Let me see if I can make you a co-host.
Okay. Howie, did you see the new Cana logo?
Yeah, I did. I like it. I saw it in the background.
Howie, give me your name and your phone, your name and your neighborhood, please, because I
It's
don't know
Howie
everybody by
Stoller,
name.
but I'm the immediate past chair.
You're the immediate past chair.
20 years he did.
Wow. Give me your last name one more time, my
Stoller,
friend.
Stoller.
Okay. And what neighborhood are you?
Melrose.
Thank you. Got it. So as people come in, Zach, I'll take it. Probably towards the middle of the meeting, or once I get a sense that people are not trickling in anymore, I'll turn the hosting back over to you.
Okay, that works. Thanks, Clanisa.
You're
Appreciate
very
it.
welcome.
You know, Zach, even to kind of simplify administration, you just might want to cut it off at a certain time.
What's that?
You just might want to cut off when people can enter the meeting. Let's say no later than 5 minutes, and then they're on YouTube with 10 minutes.
You know, I can put in the future agenda that will lock the meeting
Yeah,
at 7:15 or something.
right. Just and that would prevent, even like stragglers coming in or people
Yes.
trying to get in afterwards.
So we're gonna knock it off at 7:15.
Well, we're just saying in future meetings, we'll advise individuals that are new. Basically, we're going to cut you off. You got to go to YouTube and Facebook.
Okay.
We'll lock the meeting for
Got it.
security. I think this just makes people more comfortable that we're doing all these procedurals.
It does.
And if you've done, other Zoom meetings, is security involved in those. So,
But I got to tell you, it was, I think the week after the incident, I mean, I saw a couple neighborhoods putting their Zoom info right on Facebook, and I was just like, but I did see other emails from neighborhoods. They're being much more secure now. Some weren't even using a meeting code or a password. It was just a link.
no.
Nah, that's way too open.
Well, we're up on YouTube and we're up on Facebook already, and we're recording for Keith Irish. He must have been happy. I got to meet the candidates up on Channel Albany 1303, the one that the Uptown Cooperative did. So
Well, that's good. Of course, it's a little redundant, right? If you put it on the channel, we're already on YouTube and Zoom.
well, some people don't have Facebook, so
Okay.
that's why they can do the YouTube. And then we have Maria. Hi, Maria. Gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I make them mute as they come in, so we don't have a lot of feedback when somebody comes in.
That's great. Thanks, Lisa.
So I just asked her to unmute.
Okay. I'm just gonna grab my glass of water real quick.
Yep. If you're talking to us, Maria, you're still on
yeah,
mute.
I did.
There she goes.
There you go.
Maria, whatchamacallit? What neighborhood are you in again?
Mansion.
And are you representing any organization?
Housing for all.
Thank you. Is it the number 4 or FOR?
House FOR.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I literally just kicked off my shoes to relax my feet.
There you go. Hi, John. You have to
That's
unmute
Helen.
your- That's
That's
Helen.
Helen.
Okay.
John's finishing up on the exercise bike.
Okay.
Hey, oh, good.
Hi, Helen. Can I get your neighborhood and if you're with the organization, who it is?
Yeah, the West End Neighborhood Association.
Okay. And what neighborhood are you with? West End?
West End.
Okay. Got it. So the mayor and Dan McCoy are on, Zach. What do you wish to, do we wish to put them in or let them wait for a minute?
Yeah, why don't we hold them for?
Okay,
Wanna
so I'm
hold
gonna
them
let
for-
a couple people in. I'm doing it one at a time and I'm taking my time.
Hi, Jenny.
Nope, she's on. Yep, I'm gonna ask her to unmute. Hey, Jenny, how are you?
Good.
What neighborhood are you with, please?
I'm on Van Buren, so I'm Upper Washington.
And are you with any associations?
Nope.
Upper Washington, right?
Upper Washington, yeah.
Welcome to the meeting, Jenny.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a whole lot of people in here. Okay, I'm gonna put you back on mute. All right. This is gonna be real fun.
Okay, Michelle, that's Michelle Siratinsky from
Siratinsky.
Beverwick.
Okay,
Yeah, that's how I can do it. I can say the name and, okay, great.
TYNSK Beverwick. Is she with any associations?
Beverwick, yep. Hey, Michelle.
Did I ask her to unmute? Let me ask her to unmute.
Sure.
All right, Louise McNeely
Hey,
is here.
Hello.
Hi. Yep, I know her. And what neighborhood are you with, Louise? She's still connecting.
Two. She's got Sheridan Hollow and
Yep.
Delaware area. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Good. Zach, you're gonna have to get Glenessa a list so she can just check things off.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking eventually.
Yeah, once you get, I think there's,
Yeah.
there's.
Oh,
a
you
lot
know,
of regulars.
the last meeting minutes had the list of everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, look at
There's
them. Yep,
There's Jeff Crumpton from Hudson Park. Hi, Jeff. Hi, there he is.
All right, and then we're gonna have Kelly Hausler come in.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello there. Good evening.
Good to see you.
You too.
Good to see you. We have Kelly Hausler with Beverwick coming on board here.
And then we're gonna have Kathy Schmitz-Moore.
Kathy Schmitz-Morphy with Shaker Park, Bishop's Gate. Hi, Kathy.
You said Shaker Park?
Park, Bishop's Gate. It's up in North Albany.
It is wonderful that you know all of these people. Justin Wallace.
Officer Justin Wallace, Albany Police Department.
Okay. And John Clarkson.
John Clarkson, Pine Hills. This works good.
Looks like Steve Smith.
Smith, Officer Steve Smith, Albany Police Department. Public Information Officer, I believe.
Got it. And Andrew Harvey.
Andrew Harvey, Park South.
John McDonald.
John McDonald, Assemblyman. Good evening, Assemblyman McDonald. How are you, sir?
I am good, Zach. How are you?
Great. Thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yes.
We're just taking our attendance roll. We're trying to hurry up here. How many more we got, Glenisa?
We have
Couple more?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. Deborah Zammer.
Deborah Zamer, Buckingham Lake.
All right. Oh, Danielle Hilly just came on. She's Mansion. All right.
Got Hillary Papineau with Helderberg. Hi, Hillary. Hi, Deb.
Where's Hillary at? I didn't see her.
She's got the
Zach.
hat on. Hi,
Oh,
how are you?
Hi, Hillary. Okay.
Hi.
Deb.
Hi,
Hey,
Hillary.
Andrew.
Hi.
And what neighborhood is Hillary with again? I'm sorry.
Elderberg.
Berg.
Helderberg. Okay.
How did I just do that?
All right. And we have, it looks like Holly Katz.
That's Mansion, I believe.
Okay, so the rest are people who don't have names or they have numbers associated with them. I want to find out who they are before I admit them.
Okay.
We have Robert Murphy coming in though.
Thank you. Whitehall, Robert Murphy.
Whitehall. And I'm letting Steve Smith back in. I'm not sure what happened.
Oh, okay.
and Jeffrey Jamerson.
Not sure.
So let's find out who they are. I should have probably waited. Can you do that while I message everybody else?
Okay, Jeffrey Jameson. We have a Jeffrey Jameson. Unmute yourself, please. Hi, Jeffrey.
Yes,
Hi, which neighborhood you with?
I am in the Helderberg Neighborhood Association.
Oh, great. Thanks, Jeffrey. Good.
Got it. And I let the mayor know to sit tight.
Oh, no, let the mayor in. Yeah,
Let her
that's
in?
fine. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, what's the format? I think is Pat, myself, Kathy, and Dan all speaking tonight?
Yeah, so we'll cover just a few few questions, and then it'll be a dialogue with everybody, and you can take turns
Okay.
chiming in where appropriate.
Great.
Hi, Mayor Shan, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Dan McCoy, Albany County Executive. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Okay. Glenisa, how we looking?
We have one more person in the waiting room who I'm trying to identify.
There was one person that was going to call in, I do believe.
Yeah, I guess they couldn't wait because they popped off.
Okay, well, let's call. Are we ready to go? Whenever you're ready, Glenisa.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
All right, I'm just waiting for a response, but we can get moving.
Okay, I'll officially call this meeting to order at 6:37. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I'm Zach Simpson, the chairman of the Council of Albany Neighborhood Associations. This is our Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021 meeting. I would like to just thank Mayor Kathy Shan, Albany County Executive Dan McCoy. We have, Assembly Member John McDonald, and I believe Assembly Member Pat Fahey will be joining us. Glenisa, it's Jeffrey from Helderberg Neighborhood that's in the waiting room, right? Is that right, Hillary?
Jeffrey Jamerson?
Oh, sorry.
No,
Hillary,
he's
was that-
there. I let him in.
Oh, okay. So sorry. Oh, sorry. I read it wrong. Sorry. But I just want to kick things off tonight. We are going to do a conversation on COVID. Can we mute Andrew? Andrew, mute yourself. Thanks.
I can.
It's been about a year since the initial shutdown occurred. And I just wanted to invite some local officials tonight to kind of talk about the last year. It's been a really sobering year. It's been a tough year. We've lost over 500,000 Americans to this horrible pandemic. And, it's just been a really difficult thing. But so I just wanted to start off this conversation on COVID to ask our invited guests to kind of talk about the immediate, when it immediately happened, like when the pandemic hit, like what it was like for yourselves in the offices. Kirsten, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you for inviting us, and thank you to Kana and to all of you for what you do for the city of Albany. As you know, we had a number of Zooms together to talk about COVID response, to ensure that we understood the needs of each neighborhood and that we were really focusing on those needs in our response to COVID. And I guess I want to start by saying, that initial reaction was, something that we were prepared for. I mean, we expected it to come. It was inevitable that we were going to get positive cases once we started seeing positive cases around us. And I think the first thing that I did as mayor of the city of Albany was recognize the role that the city needed to play in responding to this pandemic. And part of that was also knowing what we didn't need to do, and that the lanes that we should not be in. And I want to take this opportunity to give a huge shout out to our county executive, Dan McCoy, who, really, I don't know if it's your military training, Dan, or, but, your leadership and your experience as county executive. But as you all know, the health department exists at the county level. We don't have a city health department. So the public health response to this came out of the county health department. And they were immediately in contact with me and with other leaders. Our county executive convened leaders from across the county to ensure that we were up to date on what was happening. And I viewed my role as really amplifying the messaging that was coming from the county executive and our county health commissioner, making sure that people had that information, that we were breaking it down in ways that people could understand, and that we were supporting the efforts of the county in setting up contact tracing, setting up testing, all of the things that had to happen, the distribution of PPE. So I just, it really is one of those times when working across these different governments became really important. And I think the fact that we had been doing it, albeit not on this scale in the past, made it easy for us to do that. So it wasn't just the county executive and I, but it was our staffs who were communicating and working together to ensure that we were responding to the needs of the residents of the city of Albany. And the last thing that I'll say is what I did see our role as is making sure that we were understanding the needs of the community. So I created a task force to focus on the human needs, food, broadband, and Wi-Fi hotspots as the school district closed, access to childcare, the types of things that the city would be able to assist with, and then also looking at the economic impact. So I pulled together another task force to really focus on our small business community and to ensure that we were getting clear and strong lines of communication so that we understood what the business community needed, how we could help them, and how we could be as flexible and responsive as possible. And that was really the early days, Zach.
Yes. Dan McCoy, would you like to comment, sir?
Yeah, just to echo what the mayor did, working together. And I remember we're sitting in your conference room talking about the St. Patrick's Day parade and whether or not we should go forward or not. And we were like, yep. And then the next day, our first case hit. And it was game on from there. And I will say my military experience, being a city firefighter for all them years, really played into a lot of the roles that I did going forward, breaking up our staff into multiple layers. So if someone got sick, there's always someone to run. And the mayor's right. Our staff intertwined very well together these last 12 months and continue to, where we would talk and we're like, I don't know. And then we get back to our staff and they're like, yeah, we already talked. We took care of that. So it was good. And again, it was a learning curve for everyone because it was new. We train. Our medical corps trains every year. They meet, quarterly to go over different scenarios. And you can practice for every scenario you think underneath the sun. And then you get hit with something like this that changed. And if you remember in the beginning, we didn't talk about masks, not socially distancing, all these different elements that came into play over time. So it has been challenging just to reimagine our workforce, how we deliver services, how are we going to continue to deliver services, and how can we do this working together? Because no one, and I'll say this on the call, and it's been great working with Kathy Sheen and John McDonald and Pat Fahey, Neil Breslin, and everyone else. To really say the egos were left at the door, and it was like, how can we help one another? How can we support each other? Because we represent everyone at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what level of government you're at. This is something that we were all in together and learning with the school districts, because I learned with so many different superintendents. And I was joking around. I spent a lot of time in the principal's office in school, but not for the good reasons, So dealing with all the superintendents and everyone else was interesting. But how to get kids fed, internet. I mean, I could just go on the levels of things we had to introduce into government itself, the technology to keep half the workforce home, because people need services. Our DSS services went up. We're having issues with our opiate task force, more overdoses last year than in 2019, went up 60%. So there's issues like that, even though you saw the mayor and I and John or Pat or Neil or whoever focused on the COVID-19 and what was in PPE and sharing stuff and trying to help each other out, it was the other stuff in government that has to continue to run that we weren't talking about, but we still had to do and try to figure it out. So I do want to thank them personally. And we're not out of this. And, unfortunately, you're right. We've have over 500,000 Americans that passed away from this. We have over 357 in Albany County alone. And unfortunately, if there's new waves here, the UK, we've had it in the county. And we have identified it, and it's here. It spreads more. So we can't let our guard down. I know people have COVID-19 fatigue. Our staff's had it. I know that I don't want to speak for the mayor's staff. I know they feel the same as my staff. It's tiresome because we've been going 7 days a week around the clock, and we're joking around when's the last day we had off. And we haven't. It's been over a year that we've been working every day, but that's what we're here for, to lead and to do it in a partnership. And I will say this, and people are laughing at me because I kept saying partnership. And Steve McLaughlin and I are at different spectrums of politics, not to get into political game, but we don't talk about politics. It's about how can we work together to get the vaccine. And I want to personally thank the mayor. We got together with Mohawk Ambulance. We did a partnership with them to get vaccine to underlying communities, not just in the city of Albany, but throughout the county. And, it was stuff like that, setting up pods, first walk-up pods to get tested with COVID-19. There were so many people involved, things we did with the hospitals, setting up, hotel rooms for hospital staff, for emergency workers that couldn't go home, that were afraid to go home, that didn't want to bring COVID-19 to their house. And, one of the things growing up in the city, I remembered Holland Ave, that the mayor, you can help me, forget the hotel there on Holland Ave now. It used to be a nursing home. And the one thing it said, they have positive pressure rooms and their elevators were built for stretchers. Let's take it over, perfect backup plan. And then partner with St. Peter's. And it was a hard decision because of everything going on in nursing homes. And I'm not here to get into that debate, but the nursing home and doing everything I could do to keep it out of our nursing home to protect our residents. And when we opened up our new nursing home, our old new nursing home is attached, but it's not separate ventilation, all this, and set up a hospital there for St. Peter's and 7 other hospitals for an overflow. And it was a tough decision because I knew going to the public, people are going to be like, we're putting COVID-19 patients in the nursing home. No, it's going to be separate, but we needed it because what we were faced with. And I could go on with the multiple things that we had to do, decisions we had to make that, decisions I made 6 months ago, 12 months ago. I wish I made differently, but what was in front of us, what we were dealing with, we had to change and continue to change with this. And we're still learning from it, and, the one thing I know, everyone wants to be open. Everyone wants life to be normal again. And I get beat up on, I always say little tiny radio station, 1300. They like to pick on the mayor and I all the time for the stuff that we do. But the reality is, I don't want to deliver bad news. No politician wants to deliver bad news. But at the end of the day, I have to tell people what's in front of us. And I kept saying September, October of this year, we're going to get out of this. December and January are going to be our two worst months. They were. I'm hoping mid-March on doesn't get that way. We're watching our numbers. And with this new strain here, we're hoping not. But we're getting more and more vaccine. I did a partnership today. The partnership with the city of Albany and the state and FEMA to open up the armory to people, to get more people in there. This is good stuff. And I can assure you, we set up a pre-register link. It took off. We have over 30,000 people pre-registered, over 10,000 in the city of Albany that are looking for vaccine. We have the demand. We just don't have the supply. But within a month, the issue is going to be the mayor and I will be sitting on the street corner saying, please get a shot. We need people to get a shot. That's going to be a luxury, and we will get there. But again, I can't do it without the partners we had. And I want to thank everyone and the residents, because you're on the front lines and you're in this. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to by wearing a mask, walking your arm, cleaning your hands, staying 6 feet apart, it'd be worse. And trust me, flu season's down. A lot of different things that happen are down because people are wearing a mask. So it is effective. It does work. It's not comfortable. But please trust me, and I hate to say it, what Dr. Fauci has said, that, we're probably going to be wearing masks to the end of this year, going into 2022. I
Thank
can
you
keep
very-
going. I don't want to take up everyone's time.
Before we move on, Glenisa, we have a couple folks that have emailed me that they are Cana members, so can we let them in? I think there's
There were
Esther.
3 people. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Esther. I'll let
Yep.
Esther in, but I will tell you, I've been in the chat asking them several times.
Yes, they may not be seeing your chat, so let's just
Okay,
let
no
them-
problem. So there's 3, it should be 3 people. That's what
Sorry
you
for the
have?
delay, Esther. Sorry about that, everybody. We're just, trying to keep things nice and secure.
Yeah.
Let's go to Assemblyman John McDonald, please.
Well, thanks, Zach, and good evening to everybody. It's a pleasure to join with you and to my daily conversations with Kathy and Dan. They've been great champions throughout this whole process. Kathy had said something in the beginning, which is true, is you really had to stay in your lane. But admittedly, when you go back a year ago, I think for a little bit, we were trying to figure out what our lane really was, because all of our offices at all levels of government were getting besieged with calls on, what about this? What about that? And, Dan's done a great job communicating on a regular basis on where things are at and how we'll make it local here at Albany. And to be candid, it's not always easy when you've got the governor right up the street, because sometimes inevitably there's going to be some confusion, some conflicts, and he's done a great job of clarifying that. And, from our perspective at the state level, we ended up being a source of information on pretty much every topic known to mankind. I've been very fortunate to be in public office for 21 years, and I learned an awful lot being mayor, I will tell you that. Learned a lot at the legislature, and I learned a lot running a business and being a healthcare professional. But I got to tell you, we really were tested and tested well on many aspects. And the most important thing I learned is that you can't get upset. You can't yell and scream. And I listened to some of my colleagues in other parts of the state who just, they're just upset they never get responses. And I'm saying, well, if you carry on like that when you're talking to me, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when you're talking to other people. Because as Dan pointed out, and rightfully so, they haven't had a day off in over a year. Everyone is a human being. At some point, this wears on you. And you think back to March and April, May of last year, when every day was a different shock value. It was something different going on. And then constituents are reaching out because they were concerned about their housing, which we've taken great measures to address. They were concerned about their unemployment, which was a very difficult situation. I could like to use the word debacle. That's probably being too kind, but the reality is, in a typical year when we spend $2 billion on unemployment throughout the entire state of New York, we spent over $68 billion in unemployment benefits. So that is not just giving a lot of money to a certain few individuals, it's giving a little bit of money to almost everybody in the state. And it was tough, and we were all sympathetic to it because we know that, people's households have to run. They've got commitments and functions, and spent a lot of time explaining why things are closing down and when are they going to reopen and all that kind of stuff. And now the good news is, because of a lot of measures at the federal, state, local level, we're on the other side of it. We're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, but we're actually starting to see brighter days. It's kind of symbiotic with way the day of time is right now. We are moving in the right direction. We mentioned this morning, we had a kickoff at the FEMA site. And, there were a lot of people there at all different levels of government. And I'll be the first to tell you that sometimes there's friction sometimes. We might be all in the same political party, but we don't always agree. But the reality is, in this effort, we have all put that aside. Whatever those minor petite little things were, and we've worked together. Because at the end of the day, it's about making sure that we survive a health crisis. And that's what it's been. So I know my audience well enough that there's probably more brighter questions than listening to me spout off. So I'm going to tune it down. And Pat Fahey should be joining momentarily because we are also in conference. So I had her.
She's on
right here over here. And there she is, just like magic.
She's late again, John. She's late again.
The parish priest used to call me the always late John McDonald. It wasn't because I was deceased. but Pat definitely gives me a run for the money. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to the other assembly member in the city of Albany, Pat Fahey. And you can unmute yourself, Pat.
Okay, thank you, everybody. My apologies, and you're hearing background noise here because we are still in conference on the budget.
We lost you. We lost your audio, Assembly Member Fahey.
Okay, we're gonna get this. Sorry. You're hearing noise in the background. I'm trying to turn it down, but we are still in session. So aside from the fact that we are still, we're in conference on the budget. So aside from all the multitasking, this has been a week of lots of multitasking, but I also wanted to give Danny McCoy something to give me grief about. So Danny, I didn't disappoint you. There you go. So, but seriously, there are some good things underway. I don't want to repeat too much of what John said, but I want to start with a hello, a belated. I think I personally said thank you to Zach, but Zach, thank you. After many, many years of Howie and his leadership, thank you for stepping up and taking this on. And already I know you're doing some great things here. Where is the city without neighborhoods? And I as one who lives in one of the city neighborhoods, I just think it's so important that we continue to advocate for our neighborhoods. It is what makes a city and or a community a community. I assume John McDonald filled you in on some good news on the budget. We are very, very encouraged. We had encouraging news yesterday that it looks like even some of the forecasts are coming out a little bit higher. I just don't know how to mute this right now. Yeah, okay. I tried to mute. Sorry, my conference is distracting me, but I need to go back to it. So we are getting good news on the budget, partly because we are getting a lot of federal aid, partly because we do plan to raise some revenues that you've heard about, and partly because the forecasts are coming back a little better. By the way, I personally think the forecasts are coming back a little better these days because of previous stimulus dollars. In other words, even though the economy is not in as desperate straits as we expected, it is still struggling. And in the bottom line is, I don't care how much federal aid we get, we must create jobs. So in the end, you can only get so much infusion of monies. You can only help so much on rent. We've got to get people back to work. And thankfully, this morning, I did see that with this latest Johnson & Johnson vaccine, they are now estimating that we will have enough vaccines for those who want them. And that's a whole nother issue on vaccine hesitancy. But by the end of May, we are really thinking maybe, or they are projecting, the feds are projecting by the end of May that some of the worst will be over, which is, that's one of the rosier forecasts that I have seen. And I think that's really important because until we are fully vaccinated, we cannot get the economy going to the degree that we need it to. So let's see, with regard then back on the budget, one of the most important things that the mayor has been to her credit, she's been a fierce advocate of, and that is getting what she calls the capital city aid of 12 million. John, myself, Neil Breslin have really, because the governor never puts that in his budget, we have been relentless advocates to make sure that we get it in the Assembly one house and in the Senate one house. And we are very encouraged that we are being heard on that. So so let's hope. In addition, of course, if the $1.9 trillion federal package goes through, I assume most of you have seen the projections that if it goes through with that full amount, the formula is showing that Albany City alone will get $79 million. It's just the most unprecedented amount of dollars. So I hope we will continue to work together on that. The county as well. Dan will know the amount that's projected for the county, I'm afraid I'm just forgetting it. Again, these numbers have to hold, these bills have to pass. $1.9 trillion is a big, big number, but, and those are, that's the next stimulus package. The more other interesting news on that is it is expected to be quickly followed by a $2 trillion infrastructure package. Now, some are saying because of some fallout, it might be more like 1 trillion. Either way, those are extraordinary numbers. Many of you know I'd like to see 787 re-envisioned. We also want to see Wadsworth rebuilt and consolidated. The governor has designated Harriman campus. He took it out of his budget this year, and we are working on that every day to make sure that that goes in, back in. That was a $750 million investment. It would be rebuilding the Wadsworth labs and consolidating them. They're on 4 different locations now, would be the single biggest public investment in the capital region since SUNY Poly and since Global Foundry. So in terms of public investments, it is unprecedented. The governor did take it out of his budget this year, but we actually just met with a whole host of groups this morning again on that, and very hopeful that between the Senate and the Assembly, we will get that restored. So I think that there's some very encouraging news on the horizon, and our briefings so far are coming back incredibly encouraging. I see the mayor is on the line, and one of the things that has been presented is an increase in municipal parks. So I've made a couple of notes to myself, and we hopefully will have some good things to follow up on. I'm not sure if I've exceeded my time, but I'm happy to take questions, and
So
again, appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Woman Fat Fahey. Actually, let's go back over to Mayor Sheehan. You did a good segue with the budgeting during COVID-19. So maybe Mayor Sheehan, you want to talk a little bit about what it's like to do a budget during a pandemic? Probably
Well,
daunting.
I will say that when we started to see the drop in sales tax revenue and the concerns that we had around our departmental revenue, we were, and the threatened cuts by the state in our direct aid from the state, we were initially budgeting, about a $15 to $18 million shortfall. And we went through the exercise of figuring out what we would need to do to balance the budget. And then when I looked more deeply at those numbers, and I will say this was in, the April, early May timeframe, I asked a question. Our budget office and our human resources department were ready to implement the layoffs and to announce some pretty draconian cuts. And I said, well, before we do that, I want to see the breakdown of who's going to be impacted. And not surprising to me, but I think surprising to some was that there was a hugely disproportionate impact on our employees of color. And I said, no, we're not going to do this. Now, this was before George Floyd. This was before, what then happened in June. And I said, we have to find another way. We have to fight for our employees. And it made sense, right? Because the cuts were being made to our services that people see as, not as essential, right? They're essential in some ways, but when you have to make these decisions, it's not considered as essential as police and fire. And so, I think that I probably was my budget director lost the last of whatever hair he had when I made that decision. But you know what? We were able to figure it out. We were able to come together and figure out how we could use our reserves and how we could save jobs and how we could save city services, because the city services that were going to be cut were city services that are most dependent upon by our most underserved communities. And so it was that commitment to equity that really pre-existed this pandemic that put us in a position to be able to respond in a way that put equity first. And then when we went to build the budget, I said, look, we're going to be still fighting for direct federal aid. the federal government bailed out cruise lines. They bailed out the airline industry. They bailed out Fortune 500 companies. And we were fighting for America's workforce, your police officers, your firefighters, your sanitation workers, your code inspectors. And I said, we're going to create a budget that fully funds all of our positions, and we're going to fight for state and local aid. And it looks like we're going to be successful. And I know that people look at that $79 million number, if that holds, as a huge number. But you know what, folks? It's not. The economic impact of this is going to be with us for many years. We're seeing our commercial office buildings empty out, and the predictions are that fewer than 50% of those office buildings are going to be filled. So what's that going to result in? It's going to be a decline in the assessments of those buildings. So our property tax base is going to be impacted. We have to reimagine some of the services that we provide. And we have to pay people, right? We have to ensure that we are settling contracts and doing what we need to do for this workforce who is here for us through this entire pandemic. And so we're looking at the impacts, because this is the only aid that we're going to get, and we're projecting out the next 3 to 5 years, and then we'll be reaching out to our small businesses and others in the community to talk about these funds and how we can be good stewards of these dollars, because these are going to be needed to help rebuild and reopen our economy. But I think we made the right call. It looks like at a minimum, we're going to get our lost revenue replaced, and hopefully we'll be in a position to, once we can all walk outside and rip our masks off when people are fully vaccinated, which, as a county executive and as our assemblyman said, we're not there yet, but we can be focusing on how we build back better and how we can be there for our homeowners. The other part of this $79 million, we're going to have a lot of people who have not been paying their rent, and the rent moratorium is going to go away. And so how do we prevent a huge flood of vacant buildings? Because that's what will happen, right? We have landlords who haven't been paid. So they haven't paid their property taxes, they haven't paid their utility bills, and they're struggling. And if they walk away from their properties, that $79 million is going to be a small drop in the bucket of what it's going to take to ensure that we don't have a significant increase in the number of vacant buildings and all of the challenges that they bring to our neighborhoods. So we will have serious, sobering discussions about this funding and what we need to do to keep people in their homes, to prevent homeowners and landlords from losing their properties, and that we're there for our community.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we move on, if anybody has a question for the panelists, if you want to use your raise your hand tool, we'll know we have. Okay, County Executive McCoy, you want to talk? Okay.
So just to echo what the mayor was saying, I was in a unique situation because I was president of NISAC, and I'm still president of County Executives of America. So on a statewide level, national level, when this all started, I had to handle the statewide issues as well as the county. And on a national, and I spent a lot of time talking to governors, talking to other county executives across this country, and working on the stimulus package, the first couple, and then this last one, if it goes through, it will be a win. But it's challenging. I remember on Easter last year, myself, Steve Aquario, Matt Chase, Mike Griffin from County Executives, we had NACO. We spent the whole day trying to negotiate this back in April. So now you fast forward, it's almost a year that we've been working on this deal that hopefully comes our way. To the county, it's like 60 million. But some of the steps I took when I was in the legislature for my first 12 years before I became county executive is we went through that recession in 08, 09. And it took me from 2012 to 2015 to really bail ourselves out of that. We were borrowing TAN's money, which means it's just we're borrowing money because we don't have enough cash flow to pay them our bills. We were amortizing money to the state retirement system to the tune of $38 million. So I had to dig ourselves out of that last hole. So we had $20 million in our reserves when I took over. So I had to prepare for emergency. I didn't know it was going to be this, but I knew it would be some, we'd be faced with something else. It always happens. It's nature. And we built up our reserves to 60 million. We owe the state controller 7 million now. I think it's actually like 2 million now out of the 38 million. We haven't borrowed TANs, but we took a huge hit last year. It was $20 million to the county. I think it was like 2.5 to the city, and sales tax revenue loss more this year. Things, Assemblywoman phase, right? Things are coming back. But I remember talking to Steve Hughes from the Times Union in March of this time last year, like mid-March. And he goes, "What are you worried about the most?" And I said, "What's going on? But I know the impact this is going to have on us in 2022, 2023, 2024. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. It's going to take a long time to reinvent the way things and people do business. I have hotels I'm in negotiations with now that can't pay their taxes. We successfully secured $9 million for landlords, to small landlords, to help pay for the rent that people couldn't pay. The state of New York got $890 million. The problem was I've been sitting on $9 million now for over a month, somewhere in there. Don't hold me to a timeline because my time is so messed up, because it's just, I feel like, we've done so many things so much around the clock, but we can't get that money out because we can't figure it out because they're still waiting on the guidelines. But these are things that are going to help with the partnership with the legislature. Andrew Joyce is chair, Sam Fine, Matt Peter. We actually took $500,000 to give small loans to businesses, doing the Grubhub stuff, capping that, things to really work with our businesses to sustain them. And now we're negotiating with a lot of different companies to make sure that they're here when this is over with, to help restaurants make sure that the restaurant on the corner store in their neighborhood that makes the fabric of the city of Albany, that store is still there a year from now because they're struggling. And when the PPE loans first came out, if you looked at that list, and it made me sick when I was looking at that list, attorneys were getting it, big companies, but it wasn't affecting the small backbone community stores and businesses in our communities, and especially people of color. People didn't know how to apply for loans. They didn't know how to get it. They didn't understand all the paperwork. They didn't have that relationship with the bank. So these are things that we worked on too, to make sure that we were securing this stuff for them. And when it comes to our budget, our budget the year before was $732 million. We knocked it down to $719 million. But I closed a $34 million deficit. But this is not at Assemblyman John McDonald or Pat Fahey or Neil or any of them. I did an early out incentive. I had no choice. I said, you know what? I have to shrink the workforce. I have to continue to deliver the great services that people are used to, but I have to be prepared. So we gave an early out to 72 employees, which saved us $5 million. And I'll be doing it again as we reinvent, continue to go forward, to keep spending in control. Because I said to everyone, your rent doesn't go down, your cable bill doesn't go down, your phone bill doesn't go down, gas prices are going back up sky high. And these are things that affect us in government, and things we don't see, lawsuits or different things that come through, or insurance changes. And so we have to continue to readjust our budget and make sure that we're being great stewards, just not for now, but for the future. That's why I started the Albany County Alliance with the legislature, to really help out businesses, to help them grow, to attract businesses here, keep businesses here. And there's a bunch of other things I'll announce in my state of the county soon. Once I finish that up, because it's just been so busy trying to do everything. But there's a variety of programs I could get into that we're doing. And I take pride. This is the 8th year in a row I did zero tax increase in the county. We actually lowered taxes the last 2 years to help residents, because this is the time to raise taxes. This isn't the time to make people pay. This is the time that government has to work for the people to keep things down low, continue the services, the safety nets that we have to run, but make sure we do it in an effective way. And then 2% property tax cap's great. But the reality is things go above 2% or spending goes up. So we have to work together in a partnership and do more shared services, more consolidation, to effectively keep government working, not just in the city, but in the county, towns and villages throughout the county. We have to look at things through a different lens. And if people don't realize that, they have to wake up to that too, because as Mayor Sheehan said, businesses in downtown Albany, and that's the heart. I always say this, even if I'm in Westerlo or Knox or Berne or Queens Ravine or wherever I'm at in the county speaking to people, that's the heart. Albany County down, or City of Albany downtown is like the heart of the body. And it really affects everybody. A lot of people from our suburbs work in downtown Albany, a lot of businesses. And as the mayor was saying, a lot of companies learned working from home. So like, why pay rent? Why have people in downtown? Well, that's going to affect a lot of quality of life for people, because you're going to have a lot of residential and commercial space that people are going to use. So these are things that we have to continue to work on and work through in partnerships to make sure at the end of the day that we attract them in back downtown Albany, to keep them in there. Well, they're going to be looking for lower rent. They're going to be looking for lower parking. They're going to be, but then again, as Kathy said, we still got to pay our bills. We still got to keep, people don't realize you got to get your trash picked up. You still got to flush your toilets. But the vaccine's been becoming a big issue too. And, which makes it challenging to get vaccines out to everyone. And educating. That's why we did the PSA commercials. We did the first one. We just did the second one with Deion Lewis, New York Giants, to convince people to take it. Myself and Chairman Joyce went and took it through the military at West Point a couple of weeks ago because, our leadership in the Guard reached out to us. And people don't realize the National Guard has been more active now than they ever been in their history. And less soldiers buy into taking the vaccine, DOD employees, and you got to remember, there's about 17,000 Army National Guard and Air National Guard service members. And out of that, it's below 4,000 that would take the vaccine. And they had the vaccine offered in December. I could have got the vaccine shot in December, but I wanted to wait. And we have to open it up to more people. There's a lot of people I get a lot of people get mad at me because they want their shot, but they don't fall into that category. I do not control that. That's controlled by the governor and through the CDC, what guidance we have and who we can vaccinate. I can assure you that if you gave the mayor and I 300,000 vaccines, we would have 300,000 vaccines out. And we got a lot of frontline workers in the county that still are not eligible for the vaccine. So that makes it difficult. And the changing of the rules, as John said more eloquently than me, it's been frustrating at times because the game changes all the time. I said to somebody, I feel like I'm in this might work here because my younger staff doesn't get this. I feel like I'm in a Charlie Brown special and I keep trying to kick the football and Lucy keeps moving it, and I said that joke and no one laughed. I'm like, wow, I must be old, so I gotta stop paraphrasing different things to my staff. But the reality is it's just, that's what it's felt like. Because every time we get there, Kathy and I get there, or Pat or John or Neil, it's just like, nope, here's the new regs, and this is the way you're heading. And I had to make decisions on sports and other things that weren't popular. People were threatening me. People were angry. I had to have police at my house. It was a tough time because it's hard. Mental health has been a big issue. That's why on day 2, and I will say this, I took it from my military experience when I was in Iraq. We had mental health doctors. I'm like, what the hell do we got mental health doctors here for? Well, I found out the reason why we have mental health doctors there. And it's the same thing with this. And that's why the second day I stood up our mental health department so people could call in, because everyone's pressure is different. I'm used to taking a lot of pressure. Certain people aren't. When the world changes, how many friends do you have that don't like going to wakes or seeing loved ones in the hospital because they can't handle it? And as the world changed and we were shut in for them 5 months, and then reopening and wearing masks and not being able to embrace, not being able to socialize like we're used to, it's hurt a lot of people, especially with addiction, like I said earlier, and the fentanyl and cocaine and the overdoses are, we're still out training with the Narcan. We're still out there pushing out there the people who get together. So I got to say this to everyone: we're all in this together. And I said it to everyone that was negative on Facebook or called my office with nasty emails. And this is the way I looked at it. Give me a positive solution to the problem. Give me a way to get out of this. I'm not 100% correct. I will tell you I'm wrong on certain things, but I'm not afraid to say that. But I need the residents to tell us, hey, this is the direction we need to go in, or this can help this issue. And as I say to people that want to be negative, it's easy to be negative, but it's so much harder sometimes to be positive for people to say, okay, I don't like the way you or the mayor or Pat or John's doing this. well, then help us. Just tell us what you need us to do to help you get through this. And that's what we're here about. And again, in a partnership, I keep saying that, partnerships, because that's how we're going to get through this, being together. And that's what I love about the city of Albany and Albany County. We're very resilient, and we're at our best for the most when when we have the toughest times thrown at us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I see a couple of hands up, but Assemblyman McDonald, did you want to weigh in here before we take some questions from the audience?
No, actually, I'd be honest with you, I'd rather listen to the questions.
Oh,
if you
great.
don't
Okay.
mind.
Let's, everybody, you should have your raise your hand tool if you want to put your hand up. Glenisa, you had your hand up first.
Hello, everyone. Let me take my camera, put my camera on. Good evening, and thank you for coming on here and answering our questions. My question goes to Mr. McCoy, and you mentioned during your recent speech that you guys, the Assembly, capped Grubhub and other delivery services. I'm not sure if you realize that what those delivery services done is add an additional fee onto customers. And that has happened within the past 2 weeks. So for people who may not be able to get the vaccine or haven't been vaccinated yet, or and may have some angst about going outside, whether it be due to pre-existing conditions, so on and so forth, and rely on these delivery services, they've now pivoted and made that bill much more expensive for those customers. Did you have that as I guess my question is twofold. Did you guys think about that as being a response? And what can you do to help those people who may need to use Instacart or Grubhub or all those other delivery services for reasons, for various reasons, and because of COVID can't get out and do those things themselves?
So we just want to make sure. I just want to make sure I was unmuted. I had this question today. It's at the press conference, and we're going to go back and re-examine the bill. If I have to change it, I will. We want to be fair partners, and I have to say this was listening to the restaurants, and primarily in the city of Albany, that were getting hit the hardest. We want people to use Grubhub. We want people to sustain these restaurants. So we will go back and revisit it. And the points you brought up were excellent, to make sure that the consumers aren't getting stuck with it, because you were being taken advantage of. And that's the same reason why early on that I did with David Soros and Sheriff Apple about price gouging, to let people know, if you're going to price gouge, we're going to prosecute you. If you're going to take advantage of people in this situation, we're coming after you. And we're going to come after you with every tool we have in the arsenal, because this is the time that we need to stand together. This is the time that if you can deliver a service and deliver it cheaper and not have to take a big profit to help businesses and people that are at home, that's what we should be doing. But unfortunately, you got the other side of the human nature that takes advantage of a bad situation. And you see that now going on with these organizations. And, I wasn't happy. I took on Walmart, and I took on Lowe's and the rest of them that been open through this whole thing, that weren't doing the right thing, that could have gained more back to the community, because while they stayed open as Fortune 500 companies, the corner stores had to shut down. The ones that can't afford to shut down for 4 or 5 months. And there should have been an impact. I was glad that finally Walmart gave workers bonuses, more money. They should have been doing this from the beginning, not during an emergency. This should have been happening with workers before, during, and after. And these are things that we have to stay on as elected officials to make sure that this situation is taken care of. And I don't want to speak for Kathy, but same as her equity agenda is mine in the county. These are things that we have to continue to take care of the people as we go forward.
Can I just weigh in on that question as well, if you don't mind? I really appreciate the comments and the concerns on the Grubhub and others, Uber Eats. I actually have a bill on that, and John McDonald has a related bill, as does Kerry Warner. The three of us did a few different forums last summer. And in doing those forums with what we saw is some price gouging, heard about it from the bids, heard about it from another restaurants. Actually, when we were handing out some PPE, but we heard about it. So we do have a bill on that. And I think initially the county bill was modeled after some of what we've done with this at the state level. And I should say, I modeled my bill after what they've done in New York City. But since then, we saw what happened with the county, despite the, and I appreciate the county exec's best efforts on that for sure. I know you've amended once or twice to stay on top of the gaming, if you will. So we've tried to address that in the bill, the legislation. We're in the midst of the budget right now, but we are working with a host of parties to try to come up with the caps and making sure that they can't do these end games with other extra fees. So we are well aware and we're on it. But you won't see legislation, I assume, until next month, just because it is not budget related. So hope that helps, but we'll continue to work with the county and others to try to get on top of that. And by the way, we also recognize what a vital service it has been, those delivery services. So, we're not trying to drive anybody out of business. We're just trying to, play fair here. So hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know Kelly Hausler from the Beverwick Neighborhood Association. Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Zach. I just wanted to make a comment actually to Kathy Sheehan. Thank you, Mayor, for your comments earlier. I'm with the Beverwick Neighborhood Association, and when you referenced about the care for the landlords, that really speaks a lot to some things that have been going on in my direct area. So I live on Manning Boulevard, and within the last 6 months, we've had the 2 break-ins and the arrest and the hostage situation. And we've been working really hard in our neighborhood association. I'm an owner-occupied landlord myself, and I just feel really confident in my ability to screen and do background checks and credit checks. I'm not looking for anything perfect in someone, but I feel like it makes a huge difference to really bring in people who are going to be respectful and law-abiding in our neighborhood. So I've been working with some of these landlords who have been having these struggles because I want to help raise them up. And what I'm finding is they are so overwhelmed because they've had tenants who have not been paying rent. And some of it has been going on even before COVID. So there's, some of this is going back a ways, but some of it is just more during COVID. And so they're stuck. So what's happening is they're shut down. And so my efforts to talk to them, what about this and what about that, and screening and reference checks and background checks and care about the impact, not just about the rent payment. So, but they are getting shut down. So I appreciate your comments about that. And maybe if they can just feel a little less overwhelmed, then they can hear some of our other efforts. We're targeting an April meeting for our neighborhood association on landlord and tenants' rights. And so we're hoping to make an impact for that. So I know that we're in the middle of COVID and we care a lot about the tenants and the struggles that they're having, but Mayor, I appreciate that you're looking really long-term. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thanks. And I'm really excited because, we received $1 million grant from the Attorney General back in 2019 to implement a plan that we've been working on for a number of years now. And it's challenging. And this is a plan where we've really engaged a lot of individuals, and including landlords. We're going to be proposing some legislation, and I hope that landlords weigh in because we've already heard that they're anticipating that it's putting too much power into the hands of the tenants. But we need to have civil and robust conversation around that. But we are hiring somebody. It got delayed because of COVID, but we are hiring a housing outreach coordinator. And that person's job is to work with tenants and landlords as sort of an ombudsperson, and also help us to develop policies that will allow us to, potentially avoid or prevent some of the challenges that come up over and over again and can lead to situations where we end up with damaged property, blighted property. So we'll come back and present. The person that we hired is bilingual. She speaks Spanish and English. And she's done a lot of really interesting work out in Omaha on this issue, and has worked with landlords and with tenants. And I think it is really important. I understand the challenges. I understand that the rules around the money that County Executive McCoy has is probably not going to really solve the situation, right? Because at least initially, it appears that can only be used for people who are up to 80% of area median income. It can only be given to people who lost income because of COVID. And as you know, as a landlord, a lot more than that has been going on over the last year. And so we're really going to have to be creative and work together on this.
If I could just add something to that as well, because you raise a good point, Kelly. As you know, we did extend the moratorium because we didn't want people potentially being evicted and not having a safe place to go, as COVID was still in high gear back in December, January, and February. And this goes through May. At the same token, we're trying to recognize the fact that, there is $1.3 billion coming from the federal government that the state has the option to work through. As the mayor mentioned, though, the federal government has put some restrictions on that money, and therefore it may not get as far as we want it to get. We're trying to make sure we get a much better distribution for upstate New York, particularly. And at the same token, we are looking at a variety of different ways that we could provide, maybe through the state tax and finance department, some tax credits to landlords who really have been shafted. Listen, we're all sensitive to people who have been COVID impacted, lost their jobs, lost their stream of income. I know many landlords are extremely sensitive and have worked and done cartwheels to be sensitive to this. But at the same token, sadly, there's a small percentage, but it seems to be the louder noise we hear about with people who've just taken this opportunity. And, evictions are going to start at some point. We want to make sure that we try to find a way to soften the blow for the landlords, and at the same token, make sure there's some strings attached to give the relief to the tenants at the same time. It's a delicate balance. Now, as a former mayor, I can tell you, I'm very worried about many of these property owners who are going to have a justifiable right to march into the assessor's office, say, I need to lower my assessment. They lower the assessment. That's a smaller tax base that the county, the city has to work across in regards to providing services. So, Dan's talked about partnerships many a times. This is actually another partnership that we have to be very mindful. This should not be acrimonious. This should be something where tenants and landlords have to work through this together. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that if you do want to raise your hand, it's under the reactions feature. I got a couple of questions now. Sorry. Anybody else have any questions? You can raise your physical hand if you like. Oh, Hillary has a question from Helderberg. Hillary, go ahead.
Hi, thanks so much for all of your remarks. Assemblyman Fahey, I remember recently in one of your newsletters mentioning that there's some efforts for folks to volunteer, I believe, at grocery stores to help promote vaccinations among those groups who may not have internet computer access. I think that's a really key population. Are there efforts such as that or others that anyone can highlight that we as neighborhood associations can help support?
Thank you on that. This is Pat, and then I'll let others chime in because I know they're so much closer to it. But one of those efforts of signing up people at the grocery stores, just a huge kudos to a law school intern who's interning right now in my office. And she initiated this because of her dismay. She had a little bit of a medical training before law school. And when she mentioned it in the office, we put her in touch with Mona Golub. The Golub family owns the Price Chopper, and to her credit, Mona Golub jumped right on it and said yes. As the mayor spoke very passionately about this morning when we were over at the Armory with the opening of the Armory today, and I know county exec has spoken about this. John, I mean, everybody has been well aware of the horrific disparities just between tech-savvy people and non-tech-savvy people. So let alone all the other age, race, income disparities of people, of who's getting the vaccines and who is not. So huge kudos to Jessica Holler, who helped initiate that with her law school classmates at Albany Law. So I'm just going to give a big shout out, and we can follow up with you. Zach can give you our contact info if you'd like more on those details. And I don't know if anybody else wanted to weigh in with other opportunities, but you know, the ready access, I know I stressed out trying to get my son on a vaccine list once he was eligible for a, well, I'm not, but anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to bring up personal things. But it's stressful. So I was trying to get access for a family member, and it is stressful going through the site. So, and I know others have bent over backwards to try to make those more accessible, and had a great launching this morning. So I don't know if anybody else wanted to answer, but we're happy to follow up with you. Thank you for that.
Hillary, to add to your question, that's why I started the 2-on-1 with the United Way, to help out the people navigate the internet. And then we did realize, and it was a conversation Kathy and I have had, that people don't have internet access, or they're at that age where they don't, you know, it's like, it turned, to me, it reminded me of the Hunger Games. If you were quick and you had to refresh, you knew how to get on a link, we put a link up, and within less than 15 minutes, 900 slots were gone. We had one school district, very creative. They filled up every slot within 15 minutes, and we threw them out because, again, they were tech savvy. They knew what they were doing. I'm not going to call the school district out, but we said, no, that's not fair. We have to be fair how we get this out to people and give people an opportunity. So that's why we did you can go to the Albany County website. You can pre-register. That's why I brought the numbers up earlier. And we're mathematically trying to use that list through Whitney Young, through the Army's going to use it the 11th, 12th, and 13th. We got other organizations we're getting vaccines out to that are going to be able to do it. But I'll tell everyone right now, we secured a lot of vaccine this week. That's why we did the partnership. We're going to be having another pod this Saturday at the Times Union, over 2,000 on Saturday. The link will be going up tomorrow, maybe around 4 or 5 o'clock. And for 65 and above and people with underlying health issues. And we'll be running a pod there tomorrow, roughly around 2,300 people, one Saturday, one Sunday. I'll be announcing on Friday a bunch of partnerships. I worked out with Andrew Joyce, chair of the legislature, that we're setting up pop-ups of just 50 or 100 for people that can't get out there. And we're going to register them right there on the spot. We're doing one in West Albany at the VF or American Legion, I think it is, Kat. I can't remember if it's the American Legion post in West Albany, or we're going to be doing that, and a variety more throughout the area to address that. We're going into the hill towns because we're trying to bring the vaccine to people. That's why we did the partnership with Mohawk. Sheriff Apple this week, we launched doing homebound people, and we're going to be announcing a bunch on Friday of partnerships that we've developed to get the vaccine to people that are at home, because we have a list of over 5,000 people that are homebound, can't get out. And it was a passionate issue of mine, having a sister-in-law with ALS that can't move, can't talk, only talks through a machine with her eyes. And yet she has aides come in every day, and I can't get her a shot. It's the hardest emotional thing you have to do. Like Pat said, not to get personal. I know the situation she was going through, and talking to people, because I've had so many people come at me, political, bigwigs, different people, walks of life. Hey, I want the shot. And you got to be like, got to wait your turn. We have to get it to the people that need it first, that this has affected the most. And this has been the Black and brown community, and it's been people with underlying health issues. If you look at the data just here in Albany County, across this great nation, that's where it first should have been targeted. I got a little angry, I'll say, when I heard like Uber drivers, Lyfts, and they're important, taxi cab drivers, they're all important. But we have frontline people that we still can't and are still not eligible to get the vaccine.
I'm going to interrupt again here, and I'm just going to say, sorry, just because I have to do this. Danny, when this became an issue about a month ago, I know you took shots on this, and I just, on a personal level, I so appreciated that you tried to get at this issue of those with comorbidities, those with serious challenges. And we've all said this has been a chaotic, to put it as nicely as we can put it, rollout on the vaccines. And to hear the mayor speak, it was just such a great press event today. So we've had, John's been on the front lines giving out the vaccines, John McDonald. So we've just had a phenomenal team here getting it, taking the hits on this, but you have said it. And as you said, Danny, sometimes it does get personal. So I just want to publicly thank the leadership that we have had in this city, county, at the state level with trying to get through this. We have literally said no to some groups coming in. I'm like, don't sugarcoat it. You know, there are too many millions of people that are already eligible. We've got to get to those in need. So thank you for what you have done on this to my elected colleagues on this phone. I've really appreciated the hits you took to try to be so outspoken on this.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Zach, I'm sorry, if I could just make one quick follow-up comment on the lines of the equity conversation. And I just want to thank, all of those responses very much. One thing that's recently come to my attention is that, we have a senior on a fixed income in our neighborhood who wants to participate in these meetings. And the Zoom, many people use Zoom. It does offer a toll-free number, but it's very expensive and it's out of reach for many community and other civic groups. So just something to put on everyone's radar as funding discussions are occurring, ensuring that that there is funding to ensure that these virtual meetings are truly accessible to those folks. And I just on that note, I want to personally, our neighborhood association wants to personally thank the Albany Public Library. We are using their concierge service. So we are using their Zoom account. They are hosting our meeting. They're working with us for security measures, and that is an incredible public service. So again, I want to give them a public shout out and encourage, as these funding conversations happen, to continue recognizing those groups who are playing this really critical public service role and encourage funding to support that equity issue, because their account is too expensive for them to accrue the cost of a toll-free number. It would have required them to shut down programming for one of their branches. That's what the cost would have been for a toll-free number. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar because it recently came to my attention. So thank you.
So let's take two more questions. We got John Walsh in Upper Washington. John, go ahead.
Yeah, Zach, I have a point of information. I noticed the politicians there, and usually at this time is when we're asking them to march in the parade with us for St. Patrick's Day. There is no parade this year, but we're having a virtual parade. So I wanted to get the message out as best that we could, because it's going to be next Saturday, the 13th, and we're in the process of putting it together right now. It'll be on YouTube. So hopefully everybody, the message is out there, and I figured this is the best way to get it to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Let's go to Dan Van Riper in Lincoln Park. Dan, go ahead. You gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I was really struck by Mayor Sheehan's comment that estimated, I guess, 50% of office spaces are being emptied out, and that's the consequences of that are going to be a permanent ripple effect. It's not just people going working at home, but office space has been emptying out for a while because, well, computerization. You need fewer office workers. So I think this is going to be a permanent thing. I'm wondering if maybe the thing to do would be if it's some kind of partnership between the governments. We start looking at trying to create a whole new effort, I guess you call it, to create more housing, like a crash sort of thing. Looking for ways to open up not just these big apartment blocks that we've been getting in Albany, but also looking at just about every other kind of housing possible. Simply for the fact that if we can't have depend on office space, then maybe it's time to look at the housing crisis that we have. We have a housing apartment shortage in the city. We have a homeless problem, of course. It seems to me that the more housing that's created, the better off everybody is going to be. And maybe it's time to start starting to direct policies towards that.
Thanks, Dan. And that's why I say $89 million goes pretty quick. I'm already talking to some other cities that They have purchased some hotels that emptied out and that came, into a lot of trouble during COVID. And they're using that to address the need for housing for their homeless population. And we certainly have been successful downtown in conversions of office buildings that was happening before COVID. So, absolutely on it, and needs to be affordable, needs to be a good combination of workforce housing and affordable housing. So I couldn't agree more. And, look forward to partnering with the neighborhood associations. My last parting thing, I do have to jump off, but I just want to say that the Armory is open for anyone in the city of Albany now. It's not just the zip codes that we started with. Starting today, you can book appointments at the Armory that are opening up for all zip codes in Albany, as well as Schenectady and Rensselaer counties, starting today. And those appointments are booking out through the end of March. So, and the other thing for those who have trouble with the computer, this is, again, something we're not trying to blast from the mountaintops, but people can go into the Armory and register there. Somebody is there. They have sign language available. They have interpreters available, as well as a language line. And you can go in there and schedule your appointment. I mean, ultimately, it's going to require 2 trips to the Armory, because you have to go to make the appointment and then go back, for when that appointment is. But it is possible to just go in, not have to deal with a phone or a computer, and make your appointment there. And, that's something that for our homeless population, and for others that maybe struggle with language, that's going to be an ideal opportunity for them. So just want that to get out. The first part, you can blast out to all your groups. Sign up for a vaccine. The Armory's open for everyone. Appointments starting today, booked starting March 14th.
I just want to thank Mayor Sheehan very much for being on tonight, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Great news from the mayor about vaccines, and we will help on that. I just want to go back on the home ownership with Dan's question, and it's a great question. It is getting a lot of attention, and we're actually trying to amplify that right now. Two things on that. One, the governor, it's hard for me to mention his name right now. I'm not happy with him right now. I know a lot of people aren't, but to his credit, he did mention that we've got to look at some creative policies for our downtowns, because as the mayor said, probably in her head, she's got that federal money spent 3 times over, but we have to solve some of these issues for the long term. And you have heard, and we have been aggressive about trying to address these rent and eviction issues. I don't think, and I know John McDonald already addressed this, we did not do nearly enough for landlords, especially small landlords. We are going back at that. However, we're never going to get out of this vicious cycle if we do not address home ownership. So thankfully, our majority leader, she's from Buffalo, she has raised it. We have a whole upstate caucus that John McDonald and I join in on every week religiously. And I actually wrote an op-ed about this a couple of weeks ago, although who knows if it's going to see the light of day. But I think we've got to think long-term solutions. So let's take a problem, and that problem is absolutely this office space is emptying out. But if we can think how we can creatively do this, how we can convert to some condos or micro apartments that can be bought and owned in some way, or co-ops as they do in the city. We've got to solve for the long term. And I don't have all the answers right now, but it's a discussion. Actually, it's not just the upstate caucus. I mentioned it to our entire Democratic caucus and one of our colleagues from Brooklyn, because I said, I know it's not a big issue in New York City because it's all about rent there. And boy, did one of my colleagues chime in and said, no, we want home ownership. So it's there. I don't know if there's any great answers right now, but Dan, you're right on. We've got to be creative here. So thank you.
So so I just want to thank Dan McCoy, John McDonald, and Assemblywoman Pat Fahey. Did you have any closing comments tonight? Thank you very much for this important conversation.
I'll say this. I think it's important that we all work together and continue to solve the issues together as a group. And this is very vital. When I started our first neighborhood association out where I live, the Normanskill Neighborhood Association, we joined Cana many years ago, back in the early 90s, to really hear from everyone because it affects everyone in the city. And the more input we get like this helps us make decisions on the county level, on the city level, on the state level, and hearing from the people, because that's the most important thing. We work for you. I shouldn't speak for them. I work for you. I work for 320,000 people. You're my boss at the end of the day. So I want to continue to do that, work hard for you, and continue to open up more vaccines. We've done over 10,000 vaccines at the Times Union Center amongst everything else that we're doing. And when Johnson hits, like Pat was saying, 4 million went out on Monday, 20 million is coming out this week coming. By the end of the month, they're going to have over 100 million. I know people are waiting for that, especially with underlying health issues, because it is one shot and it does hit all the variants. So be patient, wait your turn. I know restaurant workers want it. My favorite post office person, Ed Walsh, who's been advocating to me, one of the best post office person I ever met in my life. On the CDC guidelines, they're 1A, but for whatever reason, we got categorized as 1C here in the state of New York. So it is a variance in restaurant workers. I feel should get the shots, need to get the shots over grocery workers because they're seeing people face to face. You go in a grocery store, you got the plastic up, you got 6 feet to get it, between you. You don't have that in restaurants. And, I wish they would listen to us more at DOH, and that's the State Department of Health, and really understand why certain groups need to get it versus other people. But all I can say is everyone continue to be vigilant, continue to be patient, and please continue with your input because we can only do our job if we're hearing from you. And if we're not hearing from you, we effectively can't make a decision that's right, wrong, or indifferent. But again, it's been a long 12 months. It's going to be another long 6 months, but we'll get through it because we're strong and hopefully we'll have a stronger community when we're done. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I'd just like to say thank you to all the neighborhood leaders. You're the eyes and ears for us. Please do not ever hesitate to reach out. Pat and I never get caught up on boundaries. We represent the city of Albany together. And in regards to the whole effort on the vaccine effort, it's been frustrating. There's 2 vaccines for every 7 people. That's numbers that just don't work. But sooner or later, it's going to move to 3 and to 4 and to 5. You're in the neighborhoods. You know the people who are going to have access issues. Pull them, drag them, encourage them. Obviously, don't force them by any stretch of the imagination because vaccines should not be forced. But we want to really encourage them as much as possible. And if our offices can be a resource, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
I've spoken enough, so I'm just going to say thank you for all you do. And Zach, don't ever feel like this has to be once a year. If there's anything, don't hesitate in terms of presentations. I mean, I know Zach, I know you've reached out plenty. But any others, please. We're
absolutely
we're a call away.
Thank you. And tonight we looked back a year, so maybe in a year we should come back together and see how we're doing. Hopefully we'll be back to normal.
Yes.
I hope
whatever that may be. Yeah.
Yes.
As normal as it's going to be.
A new normal. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, everybody. And all right, thank you very much. So let's move on to the next item up for business here. We just want to acknowledge we have Officer Steve Smith with the Albany Police Department, as well as Officer Justin Wallace. I believe Officer Steve Smith has some things he would like to say to the group.
Good evening. Thanks, Zach, for having me tonight. I appreciate just having a couple of minutes of your time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve Smith. I have the privilege of serving as the department's public information officer. Some of you may follow me on Twitter or see my social media post. I post on Nextdoor, and I also send out the press releases for the department. But tonight I'm here to report some good news, and that's that the Albany Police Department is hiring, and we are actively looking for police officers. It's no secret that we have several vacancies in the department, but Before I share information about the actual exam, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Mayor Sheehan, who unfortunately is no longer on the call, but I need to commend her leadership. Many of you may have saw a press release that she sent out last week that really demonstrated a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And those are the topics that I'd like to talk to you about today. We are trying to make this police department reflective of the community. And we know, especially from years past, of just traditional recruitment efforts may not necessarily work, and that it requires the whole community. So with that said, I'm asking everyone in this call, I'm challenging you actually to take part in our recruitment efforts. Everyone in this room knows somebody who is a good communicator, is compassionate, that would make a good Albany police officer. Please refer them to us so we can get them on a pathway. We also have several flyers that we can get to you both digitally, or I can send you hard copies if need be, to get out into your neighborhoods, to people in your neighborhoods. I ask that you share our information on social media and email. I've already spoke with Zach prior to this meeting. He's going to give me everybody's email so I can get you information. I also would like to add you to my distribution list for press releases to ensure that all the neighborhoods are getting the press releases that I send out. But the exam is going to be on Saturday, May 15th, which is an important day. But the more important date to remember is Monday, April 12th, and that's when the application is due. This administration has made it very easy. I remember 18 years ago when I applied for the police officer exam, I think I needed to go to Cumberland Farms and get a money order. Everything is done online now. You can go to jobs.albanyny.gov and simply apply for the exam. Also is on that is the job posting, which has all the information, especially the age requirements. You need to be 19 years old. Take the exam, 20 years old to be appointed, and you can't be over 35 years old unless you have military. You also need to have a driver's license. And there's also, as many know, some physical requirements as well. You need to take a PT test that consists of sit-ups, push-ups, and run. So there's a lot of information on that site, but my message to you is really that this needs to be a community effort. We need community recruiters, and we actually need you more now than ever because a lot of the events that our officers like Justin, who's also on the call, would attend, like job fairs and our community pop-up barbecues, they're unfortunately have all been canceled due to COVID. So we need you to get out into the community to encourage people to take the police officer exam. The fire department's also given an exam, but we would obviously encourage people to become police officers. But either way, diversity, equity, and inclusion is really important to us. We want to make sure that an application pool is very reflective of our community so we can hire more minorities, more women, and people who really have a strong desire to serve this community. So I appreciate your time. I'm willing to take any questions as it relates to this. And like I said, I talked to Zach. He's going to make sure I get all your emails. So I will send you the flyer digitally. I can also mail or drop off at your home if need be. Hard copies of the flyer if you want to put them in businesses, in your neighborhoods, or anywhere else. We would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Officer Wallace also. Officer Wallace, you want to give an update?
Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Wallace. I'm one of 3 community service officers in the city of Albany. Typically, this is my first meeting ever here, but I was advised we go over some crime trends, if there are any happening. Motor vehicle theft is always a big one in the city of Albany. I can report that motor vehicle theft is down from 2020, 2021 year to date. We're actually down this month. There was also a commercial burglary trend going on within the last 2 weeks. Several Dunkin' Donuts were burglarized off hours. That's being investigated. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to report. If anyone has any questions, we can take them, myself and Steve.
Okay. I think you guys good. Thank you very much, Officer Smith, Officer Wallace, for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. And welcome to your first CANA meeting. Thank you very much. So moving on to Codes Committee, we have John O'Grady. And we have an invited speaker, Maria Markovics, the co-chair of Housing for All. John, did you want to?
Yes, Maria's here. As you probably know, as many of you know, Maria co-founded United Tenants, and about 6 years ago, United Tenants spun off an advocacy group called Housing for All. Maria is going to talk about some legislation that we've been advocating for.
Hi, everybody. As John, Housing for All is an organization of neighborhood activists, tenant activists, ordinary folk who just, the main goal is to promote more policies that will get more affordable housing in the city of Albany and strengthen housing security. There is a proposal that the city has put together that makes changes to the Albany City Code. And I guess just from our previous conversations, I should say that none of these things will stop landlords from evicting bad tenants. What we think it will do is help good tenants. And I think that ultimately tenant security means neighborhood security. So let me just go through quickly some of the changes. The ROP is being proposed to go from 2.5 being done every 2.5 years to 2 years. And that the ROP should be posted in the building. Often when tenants move into apartments, they don't know whether there's an ROP or not. You know, whether the building's been inspected and up to code. So this should help that. There's changes to the unsafe, unfit, which basically means that when there are, in an emergency, the city can take action to do repairs in a building, those repairs that can be easily done, that would stop the building from being declared unfit and closed. I can tell you from my experience at United Tenants that a lot of the sheltering placements are a result of buildings being closed because of disrepair. So the city comes in and just closes the building. This would allow the building department to take action. The owner would be billed for the work. So, and I think in the long run, it's a cost-saving measure because sheltering families is extremely costly and it's very personally, you know, traumatic for people. So I think this will help. The third thing is good cause eviction, which basically says that a landlord, there are reasons a landlord can evict called good cause. And they include non-payment, the tenant's a nuisance, the tenant refuses entry to the landlord, using the building for illegal purposes. The owner wants to move into a unit. Good cause eviction would exempt owner-occupied buildings of less than 4 units. The last one include changes to the plumbing and electrical licensing that should make it easier to get a plumber or electrician in the city of Albany. We think that the bill will be introduced at the March 15th Common Council meeting, although we are not certain of that. There will be more detailed information coming out that will explain in greater detail what each of these things are. For example, good cause has, I think, 10 reasons that the owner can evict.
And it's March 15th, Maria?
We think it's March 15th that will be, these will be introduced.
Okay.
We're not, Zach, I'll let you guys know when the agenda is coming out this weekend.
Right.
We're still all proposals still.
It's very much in an early proposals. I mean, well, it's not early proposal, but I don't think The bills have yet been placed together as bills. So hopefully March 15th, they will be.
So we have Glenisa has her hand up. And by the way, Glenisa is doing a great job taking our meeting minutes. You got a question, Glenisa?
Thanks for that, Zach. Yeah, I do have a question. Maria, just going back to your good cause eviction piece, I
Right.
want to make sure I heard you correctly. So what this proposal allegedly does is say that if the landlord is in an owner-occupied apartment building with 4 or less units, they cannot
Less
use
than 4 units.
less than 4 units, so 3 or less. They cannot use the good cause eviction rules in order to evict the tenant.
Well, they can evict the tenant, but they don't have to follow the policy of good cause.
So what would be their option? Do you know?
Well, right now, an owner doesn't need a reason to evict. So an owner occupied building of 3 or less, the owner could evict for no cause. The owner could say, I'm going to give you a month's notice to move, period. That's the way the law is now.
Okay. Now, is this going to be for those who don't have an annual or a biannual lease?
If you have a lease, it would apply to lease renewal time.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to confirm. Okay. Thank you.
But again, owner occupied buildings of less than 4 don't apply. And if the owner wants to move into a building, I think of less than or 5 units or less, I mean, you don't need cause, you can evict the tenant.
Okay. Thank you.
Else, we're good. Any questions? We're good. All right. Well, thank you very much, Maria. And when you get any information, send it my way, and I can send it out on our listserv so everybody can see it. Okay.
Thank you, Jack.
Oh, let's see here. Moving on. Just a reminder, our Cana dues are due for 2021. It's $25 for neighborhood associations, $10 for individual memberships. Don't think I saw Gene Solon on tonight. I just wanted to, I have Robert Murphy and Glenisa. They've been working on the Lights in the Park panel discussion. As everybody recalls, it was delayed after last month's incursion on our meeting. And since then, we nailed down the 10th of March. I believe there was 2 dates identified and the 10th was agreed upon. So I just want to turn it over to Robert with an update on where we stand with the panel discussion in Glenisa.
Good evening. Hold on. I'm just ready with the headphones in, but not plugged in. Probably. Can you hear me now? Can you hear? We've had an overwhelming response for the Lights in the Park discussion that we are going to have. As everybody knows, and I was not well informed, and I had to go back and do some deep diving and some research last December 14th. Mayor Sheehan, I wish she was still here because I did invite her for the meeting next week, and I have sent out emails to the Department of Recreation and also to other departments within the city. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have about 10 panelists for next week. Moderators will be myself and our Glenisa. How do you say Glenisa? We were having Glenisa. Thank you. We were having a conversation about that last night, Glenisa, and I was not getting it correct, and Zach was correcting me, and it was too late. Glenisa. So we were doing that last night. So we have had an overwhelming response for a public forum, and this public forum next week will be to discuss the police athletic league and having the lights in the park. There's actually more than one side to this story. There's actually about 20. But there's proponents and opponents to having the lights in the park. And Kana, I like to say Kana because we can approach this from a positive atmosphere, and we can also support all of our neighborhood associations, which Kana is in the light of doing. Light pun. So when we're discussing this, the lights in the park does affect everyone in the city of Albany, and although it does affect the people who live on the park more directly in the 2 months that the lights in the park are occupying the park. I have done my deep dive, as I said, and done my background, and along with Glenisa, we're coming up with a series of questions that we're going to ask. And if I can pull up some, I'm not going to share them all with you because there has to be a secret for next week. But hold on, I'm running. There we go. Several of the things that I did when I was researching this, I didn't know that there was I wasn't here for the last CANA meeting, so I wasn't aware that there were 40 people waiting to get, that there were 40 people in queue to get in to discuss the lights in the park. Many of them were from the Washington Park neighborhood. Many of them were affiliated with Washington Park Conservancy as well. Not many of them, a few of them, because there's not too many people involved with that. There's a few of them. And in relationship to Mayor Sheehan, to keep her conversation going and meeting with the neighborhood associations and not to confuse her message, we want to ensure that the invitation is extended to her. Maybe I should say that like 3 more times. It's like if you say it 3 times, it comes true. So I'll leave it at that, Zach. So like I said, there's overwhelming support. This will be next Wednesday, the 10th at 6:30 p.m. Same channel, same time. Zach will be your host. Glenisa and myself will be monitoring. We will be your co-moderators, and we have a house of plenty. Zach, back to you.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Robert. Do you think you're gonna have a finalized format?
Yes, I should go over the format with you. Since we are doing a panel discussion, in the panel discussion, we will do this like we did in the panel discussion for the development in Albany, that we did in October of 2019, I believe it was, where we will have screen questions, and all of these questions will go out. This time they will go out to the panelists beforehand. And everyone will know where everybody stands as if they did not know this already. I'm the only one that did not know where everybody stood on this beforehand. I will give you some of where people stand right now. There's a couple of issues, points of contention right now as where the traffic is the biggest contention. And it's like, that's one of my issues as president of the Whitehall Neighborhood Association. I have always said that I go to all of these neighborhood association meetings, and it's kind of funny, you could drop into any meeting and you hear that. One of the first things, you could drop into any meeting, and one of the first things that you hear at every meeting that people complain about is the traffic. And then the second thing that you always hear about is the traffic. So it's like, this is one of them. But however, because of the one-way streets around Washington Park, and the fact that they're having this, the lights in the park, and then we also had last year COVID-19, and the mayor said, everybody come to Washington Park and stay in your cars. It's a very perfect COVID-19 safe family event. We can stay in our cars. Everybody decided to do that, perfect confluence of events, and everybody did this on the same day. And they did it 2 days in a row. And then they did it 3 days in a row, 2 weekends in a row. So it was the perfect storm. And that was it actually exacerbated an already huge problem that was opportunity that was there that needs to be addressed. So the residents that live on the park are not white elitists that some people keep espousing. I'm not going to tell you who the some people are. And because I did a census search, and that's not the people that live on the park. And the traffic will block emergency routes to the hospital. And we have county executives, we have state officials, we have city officials who have documented that they were on the park during these times and saw ambulance and emergency personnel getting stuck even on Lark Street at this time, and said they could walk faster than the ambulance or walk faster than the emergency vehicle at the exact same time that this was happening. And so there's an issue and an opportunity here to discuss the lights in the park and the police athletic league. So traffic is the huge issue. Other stakeholders, they're asking where this is opening up the can of worms about where the funds are being allocated. They're not questioning the police athletic league. They understand they are doing a very good deed for the youth in the city and their after school programs and how they're helping people. But other stakeholders are worried about other issues surrounding the park. I'll leave it at that. But the traffic, the sound, air pollution, cars honking, restricted access to the park because it is a public park, and other tax-paying citizens in the city of Albany are paying taxes for that park as well, beyond the residents that live inside the four corners or five corners of the park, five walls of the park rather. So that's what we have next Wednesday. Very exciting.
Okay.
And we're looking for resolution. We're looking for common ground.
And we'll get something out to the neighborhood leaders to get out to their constituents, because
definitely.
I know a lot of people would like to submit some comments. So
yes.
Hopefully
by tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, we'll step on the gas.
Yes. Great.
Okay. Great. Let's see what's next on the agenda. Oh, Louise McNeely, did you want to talk about? You had something you wanted to bring up, right, Louise? She there? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, sorry, just had to unmute. I had two announcements for the announcement section. One, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you have neighbors that are behind on their mortgages, or hopefully they're in a forbearance, please have them check in with us. You can go to the website homesave.info or call us at 434-1730. We have some mortgage assistance funding for homeowners in the city of Albany to help them catch up. We've also got free legal services and advising services to help people figure out a mortgage kind of catch-up plan, because eventually, everybody's in forbearances, so most people don't have to pay their mortgages, but they will have to pay them ultimately. So the sooner they act, the better, else we're going to be overwhelmed all at once with a whole lot of folks in trouble. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, when we talk about repairs and the need for repairs and how many of our neighbors are struggling to pay bills, we also have resources to help people make their homes more comfortable and affordable and green. That's also same phone number, 434-1730, but there are incentives and programs for energy efficiency and home repairs to get that work done. Thanks. And we also have, I didn't want to take up all of the announcements, but there's also landlord workshop coming up April 28th, which is very popular with folks either buying multi-units or for neighbors who know landlords that could be better. And then the home buyer fair we're going to have April 10th. And I know the neighborhoods have been very good about helping get the word out about that, because homeownership is something that's, really helpful in terms of stabilizing neighborhoods. And we also do, one of the tables is about, here are all the great neighborhoods that you could be living in. So that's it for me.
Thanks a bunch. Thanks a bunch, Louise. Appreciate it. All right. So I guess, does anybody have any other business? We do have future meetings I'll tell you about. So April 7th, we have environmental sustainability with Tina Lieberman, chair of the Albany Sustainability Advisory Committee, and Scott Kellogg. He's the educational director of the Radix Ecological Center. And also we have another add-on we didn't have last month. Jen Benson, she is the volunteer and outreach coordinator with Riverkeeper. It is a non-for-profit that has been around for quite some time. This year is their 10th annual day of service, which will be Saturday, May 1st. So I think Kana is going to lead a sweep project, possibly citywide, coordinating with neighborhoods to help target certain areas to really do a cleanup, help DGS, get us clean, get us back on our feet after this pandemic. We all gotta join together to get through this. In May, we have Scott Jerzombek. He is the executive director of Albany Public Library. He'll be here, and then it's gonna be the budget presentation from Albany City School District. And then we also have 98 Acres in Albany. It's a digital history project that focuses on urban renewal and the construction of the Empire State Plaza. And then in June, Maria Markovics, who just spoke earlier during the Codes Committee report, co-chair of Housing for All, she's going to be here in June. Okay. And just to wrap it up, so a couple of upcoming meetings. I know that Beverwick is meeting. Is that correct? I think next Tuesday. Cornell Cooperative Extension is going to be there. That's next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Shaker Park Bishopgate. They actually met last weekend. They hadn't met in quite some time, and they're going to have another meeting at the end of the month on March 27th at 10 o'clock in the morning. Normanville Neighborhood Association reached out to me. They haven't met since 2019. I will be hosting a meeting via Zoom on March 31st at 7 o'clock, helping them get back together. And I'm also still working with the downtown, the formation of a new downtown neighborhood association, working with the Downtown Business Improvement District. We have an organizational meeting on March the 16th, where I will talk about how to go about forming a neighborhood association. And that's about it. Any other business tonight, folks? Are we good? Well, I just want to give everybody a huge thank you. Tonight was a very good meeting, very informative meeting. And we'll see you next month, okay? We got a lot of work to do coming up. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Zach.
Bye, thank you.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Excellent meeting.
Did a great job.
Bye-bye.
Bye.